And welcome to episode 9 of Distilling Greatness. I'm Kris Tatum with Company Distilling. I've got my good friend and partner, Jeff Arnett here.
Good to be here.
Yeah, we got
back in the beautiful Tennessee Theater once again.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous as always. We've had a little road show last episode. Went to Franklin. That was fun.
Yep. Good to see Lee over there.
Yeah, good.
And that's the first time I think I'd met Matt.
Yeah. It was good.
Good things going on in Franklin.
Yeah, really good things. So we're proud to be in that community and appreciate that a ton. And we welcome a couple of new guests and friends. I would say friends of the show, but I'm guessing only one of them actually listens to the show, and that's Kim. The other guest would be Houston Smelcer from Helen McNabb Center. Houston, how's it going?
Going very well, and thanks for calling me a friend. That's a loosely used term, evidently.
It is. It'll be edited out. Kim, known Houston almost 20 years. Kim, we've known each other 15, I guess, 12, 15. So Kim Mitchell with the Blount Partnership and Director of Tourism. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. We're looking forward to getting together here and chatting. Again, appreciate your time.
Did you thank Houston for knowing me? Because he really is the reason why you know me.
Yeah.
I'm the reason people know you at all, Kris.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people that are kind of ticked off about that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. No, I didn't know.
So all of that being said, I think today's topic, Jeff and I, we've, kicked around different topics along with Jenna and the rest of the team. We're going to talk about, a little bit today about getting around and giving back, just to chat a little bit about community. We've talked about that quite a bit, throughout the different shows. So, I think big thing would be, I guess let's talk a little bit about our connection of of some of our guests here. Jeff, I've known him a little bit longer, but you got to know him recently too, especially Kim. And
I have. I think one of the first things that I really was almost taken aback by, moving to East Tennessee was the sense of community and how much people care about the community they live in here. I mean, it's a great place to live. A lot of people said, I can't believe you leaving Jack Daniels and just moving away and all that stuff. And I'm like, but it's not a bad thing. I have a lot of friends here, and even though I've not been here that long, I feel very strong relationships that I've been able to build just in a very short period of time. But it speaks to the community that we're in up here. I think we're very blessed to be in East Tennessee in particular.
Oh, I think that's dead on. And that's one of the things that even with our two guests today, with Houston and Kim, that the give back, our whole purpose for today's show is talk about the varying forms of give back. I know, especially when I was young in my career, I would think a lot that give back was, okay, how much are you going to give? How much are you going to donate? Whatever. But I think what we're finding and what I've found over the years, and you and I've talked about it, that there's just so many different forms of give back to the community, whether that's to those it's most needed, that needs it the most, or to those that are in the area, and we're trying to bring new people to the area. So
absolutely, especially as I've gotten older, I always tell people, and it's not that I'm a wealthy person, but sometimes it's easier to give money than it is time. But I think at the same time, your level of commitment is different when you participate. Whether that's just showing up to support an event or serving at it. We're in the volunteer state. Volunteerism should be something that we can all get behind and do. But it makes a difference. You're committed when you show up and you're willing, to do the sweat equity part of what it takes to make any type of organization run.
Yeah, totally agree. It's also some diversity in our guests here, because as everyone knows, obviously Jeff and I are in the alcohol industry, the distilling industry. But Houston, tell us a little bit about what you do at McNabb, if you would.
Sure. So I'm the Senior Vice President of Development and Government Relations for the McNabb Center. And McNabb is somewhat unique. It exists elsewhere, but there's an operating body, the Helen McNabb Center, that provides mental health, substance abuse, domestic violence, foster care, sexual assault, social services, a big breadth of services. And then there's a separate related corporation, the Helen McNabb Foundation, that exists just for the purpose of raising and holding and investing and spending money on behalf of the McNabb Center. It's somewhat unique to nonprofits in our area, although there's a few others that do it that way. And so my role there is fundraising. I kind of manage the day-to-day operations of the McNabb Foundation in terms of their board of directors and fundraising, and also on the center side, the marketing, government relations, volunteer media coordination. So a lot of hats, but it all ties together at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Houston, obviously Jeff and I have been doing stuff with McNabb for several years now, all the way back. Mm-hmm. I mean, a long time, whether it's our VIP, things like that.
Yep. I played in the golf scramble.
Yeah.
It was terrible, man. And it wasn't because it wasn't a great event. It's just that my game is terrible. I used to be a D player. I don't really know where I stand anymore. But somebody's going to draw the short straw if I get on their team. That's for sure.
Yeah, you and I have done a lot of different things together. We've raised some money. We've given away a house. We threw an impromptu fundraiser for the Lumberjack Feud years ago when you said it couldn't be done and you were wrong. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. He was wrong. And so, and then, like I said, Jeff and company we've been participating in your barbecue bash VIP. That's really grown. That grew from us just doing, me and you doing a little shrimp boil for friends, and then it grew into a shrimp boil for 150 people, and now they don't let us do it anymore.
I think a few people were in the hospital for the shrimp. That was the primary reason.
Some of us would never know. We never got in the shrimp.
Yeah, that's true. We planned that perfectly. So.
I know.
So that brings us to Kim Mitchell. She's the Director of Tourism, as I said, Blount Partnership. Tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Well, Director of Tourism. So my main job is to bring people to Blount County, either leisure, business, or corporate travel. So it's an easy job because Blount County is gorgeous. We're a gateway into the national park in Townsend, Tennessee. And we also have the airport, the local regional airport in our area. So we see a lot of business travel due to that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Well, and Kim, I guess I would have to give you credit or blame you.
Blame me?
However that would go.
Goes both ways, yeah.
But you were the first person who came to the Guild and pitched part of what became the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, but to do the Grains and Grits Festival out in Townsend, which exposed me to that area and made me begin to think that maybe that would be a good thing, a good location for a distillery someday. And then it happened.
I know. I was so excited. I got to tell everybody, I was like, Jeff Arnett is coming to our festival. It was a huge deal, and everybody went crazy. Everybody went crazy.
I still have the article on the News Sentinel when we announced Grains and Grits, and it's got his mug right on the front.
Yes.
And it said first annual or inaugural or something like Grains and Grits to feature Jack Daniels.
One of the things I pretty much limited the things that I would do with Jack Daniels in the way of travel. So I'm like 20% of my time. So, I laughed and told people you were more likely to run into me in London than you were in Nashville because they would allocate my travel days that way, but they would not let me do a lot of local whiskey festivals. That's for sure. So when the Guild formed and I became vice president, Kris and I serving there, I told him, I said, it would be terrible for us to be a part of the Guild and not show up.
And Jeff, I can remember when Kris and the other partners were talking and starting company, that securing you as the third leg partner was getting a living legend.
Wow.
No, seriously, Tatum will never admit to this, but the mystique with which he spoke about you and securing you as an investment partner and an operating partner, he kind of in hushed tones would tell his friends about who was coming aboard.
Keep it on the down
low. You can't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. He was our Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. So it's been, it's really neat the crossover between all of us. Like I said, between Jeff and I with the Guild, but then Kim and I starting out. Actually, Kim, you started out at McNabb.
I did.
So that's the thing too.
Yes.
So
Houston took a chance on me, hired me, and taught me everything that he knows. He'll tell you that himself.
Took 30 minutes.
What'd you do for the rest of your life?
The rest of the
I
day.
am the person that I am because of Houston.
Go on.
I know. Yes. Don't stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
But yes, and then that's where I met you, and you were a terrible volunteer. Would not take phone calls.
I still don't. So anybody listening, do not call me for anything.
Well, no, I remember specifically we had a lunch to talk about an event idea that you had. And I said, that's an awesome idea. Would you like to chair it? And you went, no. And I went, okay. So we go back to the office and I look at Houston and I'm like, what are we supposed to do? He goes, just call him. He'll give in. Just call him. Well, you would never take my phone call. So I had to be sneaky one day and call you from a landline and you thought it was Houston. So you picked up.
I did. And that's an honest to God true story.
Because you answered, you go, hey, bud. I went, hey. And you went, who is this? I'm like, this is Kim. You went, damn it.
I think it was my office line. And from that point forward, he would never take my phone call.
That's pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate. So, with all that being said, like I said, we have been a part of some great fundraising overall, but not only just the fundraising part, and I don't want to take away from that at all, but also, Kim, the things that you do in the community that you've included Jeff, myself, and company in, and then also just the entire community. I mean, you have a real soft spot a big heart for Blount County and everything else. And it is a gorgeous place. We've talked about that like crazy. But what do you see as the give back to the community that Blount Partnership and tourism specifically, I think, would be? What do you see? What would you like to tell people about, hey, this is what I mean by giving back to the community from your perspective?
Right. I mean, a lot of people see tourism as an intrusion. You'll see that a lot where it's like you're bringing people in, but they have to realize that the community itself, especially that Townsend community, does not sustain itself without those visitors. There wouldn't be the great restaurants. There wouldn't be the great places to go and to enjoy yourself if you are a native of Blount County. And then you have to think, too, that a lot in that Townsend area and in Blount County, it's locally owned. It's not big chains. I mean, you will see some of those in the Alcoa area and things like that. But when you get further out, you'll see these are locally owned restaurants and establishments and hotels where it's your neighbors. So when you have people coming in and being part of that, it just helps your neighbors. And it's really good to see people wrap themselves around going to the local restaurants and going to, the local places and just, giving back at that to them that way.
Yeah, and it's very circular. I mean, it really is. Like the community wants things to do. You provide those opportunities for that community, which then in turn provides business opportunities.
Exactly.
It's very circular, and there's a big give back there, and I think that's huge, and it's something that we love.
Yeah, well, and of course, with tourism comes typically, outside dollars, sales taxes, and
temporary
things like
taxpayers is what we call them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They're people who don't necessarily take up a lot of your social services and things of that nature,
Exactly.
but they come and they spend money.
And they leave.
Well, and it has made Tennessee, a low tax and a very attractive state for people to move to. Most of the people that I've met who've are recent to Tennessee are coming from states where they're kind of running from, the opposite of what we have here in Tennessee,
Exactly.
which is, which is, a fairly free, low tax state. Getting to be fewer and fewer of those, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're very fortunate in Blount County. Out of the 95 counties in Tennessee, we're ranked number 8th for tourism.
That's fantastic.
So that's a big deal. You think about taking out the top 5, which is, right here, beautiful Knoxville, Chattanooga, Nashville, Sevierville, Memphis. Then, we're right there. We're right below Franklin and Murfreesboro.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Tourism is obviously, I think I remember a statistic somewhere that it's the second or third largest industry, hospitality industry.
Second in Tennessee. Behind agriculture.
Yeah, ag and probably, well, you throw government out because it is the biggest employer, but yeah. Yeah. So I think something that's interesting too is this integration, having known Houston, again, going on 20 years now. I remember when you started with McNabb, you walked in my office and had this harebrained idea to give away a house to raise some money. And me being an idiot as well, I was like, oh yeah, we can do that. This is easy. This is easy money. But then he told me, the previous 3 or 4 years, we failed at said project.
Before I started.
Before he started.
So hackles up.
So we had our first venture into fundraising and give back to the community was an event or a fundraising event to give a home away that had previously not done so well financially. Several tens of thousands of dollars short. And we had to convince your new boss, and at the time, close to my new bosses, that we should do this. And so what I think, I tell a little bit of that story. First off, that was, gutsy that we did that.
That's one word.
Yeah, stupid. But one thing that I think that started there with that is I believe that you had this vision, and I shared it, and you subsequently shared it with others and integrated, I think, big time in the fundraising. Is you had a great mentor in Andy Black and Jerry Wagner as well. But the big thing I saw was how you did integrate like the use of like a Kim Mitchell or that community involvement and the businesses there. It wasn't just a matter of, hey, Jeff and Kris, will you write this $5,000 sponsorship? You truly had this vision of integrating the community, but also your friends. I mean, we joke about Houston, if he comes up on your phone, he wants something, which is accurate. But but the thing is that you've integrated family, friends, and community, whether it's their business, whether it's their personal time. And I think that's a big prop to you. And just talk a little bit about how you see that integration taking place.
No, I think that's a good historical description of the out of the gate attempt we made to raise money as a couple.
As a couple. So cute.
I had the advantage of walking into the Helen Ross McNabb Center with 20 plus years of history of successful fundraising, as you alluded to, Andy Black, who didn't create the McNabb Foundation, but it was an empty bucket essentially when he started. So there's such a good footprint when I stepped in of, major donors. All the names you might think of in East Tennessee that are known as big givers were already tied in terms of some affiliation, small, medium, large. So I had that benefit where, as we've expanded into other communities like Chattanooga, where we don't have those relationships, I can see how a monster advantage that was for me as a newly minted fundraising professional that didn't know what I was doing. So that, and then also, as you alluded to, I am blessed as someone who grew up in Knoxville, born and raised, and went to school here and stayed here my whole life, and a lot of very successful friends and relationships that I was unashamed about tapping into because I needed help. And I believed in the work that I was doing. I enjoy very much the mission of the McNabb Center. And so you're right. It's kind of the Northwestern Mutual model. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for mentioning that brand, but they hire people right out of school and say, hey, go sell insurance to all your friends and family, and then go be successful after that. And that kind of like that. I needed my circle to help me be successful. Jim Haslam is well known for this quote, East Tennessee has a low cost of living and a high cost of giving. And I think that exists elsewhere in the world, but it's very unique to our community. The expectation of giving is there, and people know that. And it makes it a fun place to raise money because you can do some pretty big and innovative things. And the McNabb Center has grown. I think the day I started, we were an $18 million operating budget with about 300 employees. And now we're pushing a $100 million operating budget with 1,200 employees. The foundation had $4 million in assets when I started in 2008, and we're over $50 million. So it's been a good run for 15 years.
That's fantastic. And as a side note, the first fundraiser we did with the house giveaway ended up being, for a long period of time, one of your largest positive cash flow, positive net cash on it.
That's true. Yeah, that I think when I started the block of events we were conducting, the golf, the dinner, the bass tournament, the sporting club, all that together combined was raising, not that much more than we raised just with the house giveaway by itself. The biggest takeaway from the house giveaway that I learned, other than don't do anything with you in the future, is that if you as a fundraising professional can leverage someone who has either access or influence in the community to people that have affluence or are gatekeepers for resources, you can be really successful. And the more people you can add that have access and influence who are willing to help you because of your mission or because of their interest in your personal and professional development, you can be more and more and more successful. And so I think that works well for the McNabb Center in terms of its fundraising program. Yeah,
I would agree. It's neat, like I said, hearing this, and we're local as East Tennessee. Jeff brings definitely, if you would, I'd love if you talk a little bit about the experience at Jack Daniel's, because you were in a small town, and I think you had some really interesting points about some of the support you gave, and sometimes why you and the company did. And that'd be great to hear. I think.
Oh, absolutely. I think, of course, and as they should, Jack Daniel's was the primary person who took care of most of the things in Lynchburg and in Moore County. So whatever those needs were largely being met by the distillery. And there were times that because of the nature of what you were giving to, you didn't want any recognition for it, right? Mm-hmm. So, if the Little League, needed, if the local teams needed shirts and stuff like that, that pretty much was being paid for by Jack Daniel's with the agreement that we won't put Jack Daniel's on the shirt and we won't talk about it, right?
Right.
But those are the kids of your employees, and you wanted to be able to support them. But over time, what we learned is that by kind of having that approach to it, by doing everything sort of on the down low, a lot of people didn't know. And I don't think they had an appreciation for how things happen. How did the courthouse grounds get planted? Who paid for that landscaping? Who put the clock in the tower? All these things that were going on in the community, people are just like, it was magic the way it was happening. And I think in hindsight, we learned is that you really need partners. And I think Houston would agree to that, that you get commitment, you get more involvement and stuff like that. So in the time that I was with Jack Daniel's, I saw their posture beginning to change. And that was, we still want to support things in the community, but we really need the community to be involved.
Yeah.
So, whatever something costs, we will, do half of that or 2/3 of that, but there needs to be other monies. There needs to be more skin in the game than just us. At the time, and I felt like there was, I grew a lot out of it. My understanding, I felt like I'm a little bit more wise about, how things don't just survive but thrive, and it takes commitment. And I know, Houston, one of the questions I would have for you is, I know you're into fundraising and stuff like that, but what is the bigger challenge? Is it getting money, or is it getting hands and backs to show up and getting that type of commitment from people? Because I know that's important too.
It absolutely, it's Andy Black, Kris referred to earlier. He would always say people's time is the truly best and greatest gift that they have to give you. And I think you said earlier, Jeff, sometimes it's easier to give money than to give your time. And Kris, I've known you to say over the years, can't I just write a check? And so I would say the industry standard in development, when you're looking at your volunteer committee that's assembled to help you with an event or a capital campaign or whatever your fundraising activity is, typically, if you can retain 90%, that's pretty good, which means not exactly, but you're turning over your committees once a decade completely, 100%. So if you're not replenishing, 10% of the size of your committee, then it's shrinking, and really you need to be adding more to that every year. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere. It's really hard, and I think it's getting harder because the pressures of today's world on especially younger folks that are in that 25 to 45 demographic with children, and the pressures of climbing the ladder and just the social aspect of some of the groups that can be helpful. It is hard to grab their time because it's not that they don't want to give it; it just is not there.
Yeah.
And so making a compelling case. Making things as easy as possible for those donors in terms of being organized and prepared and having the materials ready and being correct and accurate and thoughtful in how you approach donors. You have to do all those things. Otherwise, you'll watch your committees, your volunteers evaporate quickly.
Yeah.
I know, Houston, at one point when I was at McNabb, we talked about, gaining that new generation for the love of McNabb, because McNabb has an incredible view in the community. Everybody loves McNabb and everything that you guys do there. You've got a great reputation. And we had that, like you talked about a little bit, of those donors, those big donors that were always part of it, but trying to get that next generation in to fall in love with McNabb and the services that they give. And you all have done an incredible job with that.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, and it's talking about those big names that would be, I guess, kind of rude to just say them out loud, but we all know those who listen to this podcast will know who they are. Those folks are in, right? If you have a good project, it's not really about garnering their interest. If you have a worthwhile, worthy project, then the resources are allocated. They're out there. They'll either step up as a leadership gift, or they'll say, "Come to me at the end, and I'll finish it off so you can go." So they're out there. But what's more important long term is wealth transfers, right? It moves. It doesn't stay because we all end. Ain't none of us getting out of here alive, as my dad used to say.
Exactly.
So, an eye for the future. And we've had some great success, particularly on our boards of directors, where we are now adding new board members who are third generation folks whose grandparents were board members back in the 70s and 80s. And their parents were board members in the late 90s and early 2000s, which doesn't seem that long ago, but it was.
Yeah, really.
And now these folks who are in their early 30s and up to 40 are getting active. And it gives that other generation before them a rest, but also locks in the hope for good things to continue.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Kind of shifting, if we can, a little bit, because it's so interesting hearing you talk about this and how the volunteerism that Jeff was bringing up, and I don't want to say struggle, but it is a constant, like you said, you're turning over, you're trying to replace. One thing I want to talk about, with you, Kim, is that you put on these events, and you don't put on every event, but you have like this signature touch to all of your events. Like, it's going to be well done, it's going to be organized, you're going to cuss me at some point.
Always,
constantly. But in all seriousness, I think one thing to talk about is you're talking about turnover committees. There's two committees that I know of Kim has created. She created Hobson Hills, which is a phenomenal an event for the community, downtown Maryville area. That takes place in June of each year.
Yep.
And then Grains and Grits. We've alluded to it a couple times, and we'll talk about it again coming up. those committees, it amazes me, your committees, that you have people, you know, I always feel like, and you told the story that, you know, you asked me to be on a committee and I said no. You have people that want to be on your committee.
They do, yes.
And tell me, like, what do you think the hook is for you on those?
Well, I mean, to be completely honest, who would not want to be on a committee that deals with craft beer and Tennessee whiskey?
Okay, good point. Next topic.
I don't think those members are hard to find or retain, but we do have some really good groups, and it really is more about. It's not just the beer and the Tennessee whiskey. It's about giving back to their community.
Yeah.
And Blount County is very philanthropic when it comes to not only money donations, but their time donations as well. And these groups that they want to put on a good event for our community to come out and have some fun and just enjoy themselves. And I will tell you, both of those committees are so much fun. I love my beer committee. They're a little ADD. I have to rein them in. They've got ideas on both sides of the table and they're talking at the same time, and we love them. You want to be a fly on the wall at one of those meetings. And then the grains is just, you know, the same. It's just a bunch of friends that have gotten together, and that's exactly what it is. Gather around. Yeah, we're gathering around. And Kris, you know, grains was our idea. Well, we started that.
Yeah. I think
now,
it was more you, but
and now I rarely see you at the meetings or day of setup, but that's
I don't
okay.
do committees. We talked about that.
I'm sure that'll change after we've outed you on this podcast.
Yeah, no, I don't know that I really contribute a lot to that.
No,
the occasional F-bomb is about it. So,
well, those are important.
But you know, I do want to say seriously, like the other thing about that is you have a phenomenal supporting cast, and I don't mean that about people that work for you. I mean the supporting cast. Like I remember Jeff and I, which I know we don't anymore because we have other things on that day. But hell, we'd get there early and help her set up and put cattle gates up. And
I will say that it was probably 2 years in, maybe we were running a little bit behind and cattle fencing was not up yet. And I looked out and there was Jeff Arnett, the master distiller of Jack Daniels, the Peyton Manning of alcohol, was out there moving cattle fencing. And I almost was brought to tears. And that doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, it is.
You know, I only have one feeling.
Yeah.
And it was touched that day, one. It was really touched. I was like, oh my gosh. I almost went out there and was like, sir, I'm sorry. You don't need to be doing this. Let Kris Tatum do that. Let Greg do that.
That's right.
You don't need to be doing such things. Come with me.
That's exactly it. And it still should be that way.
It is, yes.
The difference now is I just don't show up. And
That's
so you
true.
don't have the opportunity to dump anything on me. But no, you do have a great staff. And I think
that is one thing.
To mention that Jessica Blitz, Amy, Jennifer, Tammy, Brian, I mean, that whole team over there.
The whole team at Blount Partnership.
Your new girl, Alexa Jones.
Alexa.
She's been there a couple of years now, but
she's the bomb, man.
They are.
I just beg her every day not to take my job. She's incredible. But yeah, Blount Partnership, we are a family. We are a family first. We are there to help each other, no matter if it's in our department or not. And you don't find that often. We found that at Helen Ross McNabb. I know when I was going to leave Helen Ross McNabb, I thought, I will never find this again. I will never find this group of people again in any work situation. Yeah. And I did. And that's very rare. So I'm very fortunate. In the 2 past jobs that I've had, it was a family.
That's fantastic.
Kim, how do you have 2 great events. I've been to both of those. How does the Chamber Tourism group identify a need for a third event, and if it needs a third event, how do you determine what does that look like?
Well, we are stretched pretty thin right now, as our staff is. So our focus now is bringing in events that they themselves can produce, and that we can help with either a financial donation to it if we see that it's going to. At the end of the day, we are funded. Tourism is funded through hotel motel tax. So we need for people to be staying in those hotels for us to be funded. So if we see an event that we know is going to bring people in from outside our community and stay in those hotels, then we will most definitely help with that event. But our staff is pretty much, these are all the events that we can take on in-house.
Yeah. You know, excuse me, sorry. Jeff, you talked a little while ago about Jack participation. I think the example of, buying the uniforms for the basketball team or whatever, football team, you do that quietly in the background. I think it'd be an interesting dialogue here if we can get something rolling here about the bridge between the distilling industry and the not-for-profits. Jeff, you and I have experienced that often the distilling industry is looked at as the evil alcohol because nobody ever gets drunk on wine and beer. They only get drunk on liquor.
Yep.
But what are your thoughts on that bridge? And do you think we're making strides to make it to bridge the two?
I think yes, we have definitely made progress there, but especially in the state of Tennessee, distilled spirits were treated very differently than wine or beer. You had much more latitude to market and sell, and we had to kind of push for parity. We called it. It's like anytime whatever you're allowing beverage alcohol of other forms to do, then that should be extended to us too, because it's allowed us to become one of the faster growing industries in Tennessee, and good paying jobs for the most part as well. But to kind of re-educate people that there is no alcohol of moderation. There's only the practice of it. So you can get, just like you said, you can get just as tore up on beer as you can distilled spirits. Maybe distilled spirits will get you there faster without the bloat or whatever. But at the same time, kind of whatever you need to make good decisions. And I think, personal responsibility and stuff like that. I know, with some of the people that the McNabb Center, services and stuff like that, people who struggle with alcohol, usually there's something behind that. They're using it to kind of, put salve on a wound or whatever. A lot of times it's that. And they need to find healthier choices to deal with anxiety, stresses, whatever. But I used to have people all the time that would come up to me and say, I drink a whole bottle of Jack Daniels every day. I'm your best customer. And I'm like, no, you're not.
Wow.
You're my worst customer, because you're the idiot who's going to take away the right for everybody else. The people who drink responsibly, drink in moderation, are going to have their rights trampled on by the, reckless actions of a few. So it's important for us as manufacturers to work with organizations like McNabb to deal with people in society who really struggle.
Yeah.
And use your product as, in a way that you really hope they won't.
Yeah. No, I agree. Houston, I think Houston, Kim, especially when you're with McNabb, I mean, the balance that you guys strike, both from the events that you're directly involved in, but also just the philosophy and mentality of leadership there, whether it was Andy or Jerry, those are the two that I've had most interaction with. I think it's always been a great balance, a phenomenal balance. I wouldn't even say great. I try to go higher with the compliment of a phenomenal balance. So we thank you for that. And it's not, as you know, we're not looking for our name to be plastered everywhere sometimes. Sometimes it's just subtle that we'll put it in the corner or something and, save a little money. Sometimes it's not even, that's going to be there. That alcohol is going to be there. And somebody, a wise guy, a very wise man told me that, he's had these thoughts in his mind, these struggles in his mind about, man, what am I doing? I'm integrating this alcohol into this industry. And he said, but I keep coming back to that not every person that sips alcohol or has a taste of alcohol has a problem. And so those that don't provide, whether it's a financial or whatever, we, through that interaction, through that bridge between our industry and your all's industries, we do provide help other places. And I'm pretty proud of that. I think that's something I've seen shaped and changed over my experience over the last, going on 11, 12 years now in the industry. I've seen that and I appreciate that a ton. I think that's great.
Sure. And, from the McNabb Center's perspective, we are the largest provider of substance abuse treatment in East Tennessee. If you are an individual who does not have resources to seek treatment, we're kind of the only option for a lot of those people, particularly with residential treatment. But to your point, Jeff, it's not just alcohol, right? It's opioids and it's amphetamines and it's gambling and it's pornography and, a lot of activities and a lot of substances.
There's a lot of ways to destroy your life.
That's right. And,
not just one.
And all those things are, people are using all those activities and substances as a salve, as a medicine to patch a wound or to fix a problem. And it never works, right? Obviously. Yeah. I will say that in East Tennessee, my experience, the distillers and the beer distributors and the wine and liquor distributors are great investors in the McNabb Center's mission. And I don't think that comes from a place of obligation, given the industry you're in. I think it comes from a place of success and general interest in supporting your community.
Well, and I think we have a responsibility, whether we want to accept that or not, that is something that we need to be on guard about, and it goes beyond, us not over serving people in our facilities and stuff like that we never would. But we need to help people make good decisions, and use your product correctly and as you've intended it.
Yeah, what is it about the street vendor selling food? People are nervous about, well, is that safe? You don't want to kill your customers, right? And so I think that responsible distillers and beer producers and distributors, they know that they're accountable to be responsible to not make that situation worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're tough when you've survived street hot dogs, at 1 a.m. and
or
down
Houston
on Broadway.
Shrimp.
Yeah,
Houston and Kris
buying a
shrimp.
hot dog in a back alley in Nashville. And live to tell about it.
We could do a whole podcast on some cooking stories of Houston and I can't even tell you what we called it. It was so inappropriate. Some of our cooking expeditions or excursions or adventures, whatever, but nobody died.
To your knowledge.
To my knowledge.
No
there was
direct linkage.
No direct linkage
Yeah.
whatsoever. So we'll kind of start bringing this back around here. I want to put both of you on the spot just a little bit. First off, I'd like to ask Kim, what is your favorite event that you put on?
Gosh, that's like trying to say, pick your favorite child.
Well, everybody has that. I mean,
I don't. If my
Liar.
children are listening, I do not have a favorite child.
You have a favorite son and a favorite daughter.
Yes, exactly.
Just like I do.
I and there are days I dislike them equally. I think, I'm sorry to my Hops in the Hills folks. I do love Hops in the Hills, but I think Grains is one of my favorite just because of the time of the year.
Yeah.
It's that they both are equally as fun and exciting, but Grains is, it's in November. It's just a great feel. You're in the Smoky Mountains. You got fire. You got good whiskey. You got good food. So
yeah.
So if I had to pick one,
there you go. That's what I wanted to hear.
yeah.
Well, and that event has gone beyond just the hours of the event. You've got people who come in, and gather, at our place at Little Arrow and that really look forward to that whole weekend. It's not just the 3 hours or so of the festival. It's that weekend is really special. You're around a lot of like-minded people who enjoy spirits. People bring bottles, the old Dusties come out and stuff like that.
Exactly.
If you know the right people, you get to try some pretty rare things.
And everybody up in Townsend has just really, wrapped their arms around this event. It started, Dancing Bear was a huge partner of ours, and all the distillers stayed there. We kind of outgrew that property, so we moved over to Little Arrow, and they've just been a phenomenal partner for us as well. And then just all the chefs that come in, all the local restaurants that come out and help with that. And then Sully helps us with all the chefs. Michael Sullivan, he's started this open air cooking, and it's just
It originated at Grains.
Yes.
That was a concept that we had in one of our committee meetings, and he kind of threw it. We were thinking about how to do it a little differently, and it kind of got created. It was created in that committee, and he ran with it. So.
Yes, and every year it's grown and it's brought chefs in from all over. A couple years ago, he brought the chef in from the largest restaurant in the world, which is in Spain. And he was there 2 years ago. So he continues to bring in new talent, new chefs from all over the world, not just regionally or locally. So it's always, it's a really good time.
And that's a good segue because, I was going to ask you what's next, but you've already, promoted the Grains. However, it has sold out.
It did. It's sold out.
It's sold out. So that's a heads up for 2024, which will be, is that our 10-year birthday or a 9-year? I can't remember.
No.
9. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's math. I can't do math.
Yeah, don't do math. But 24, everybody out there needs to make sure that
they go on sale August 1st.
Every year, August 1st. So get out there early. They sold out in less than 3.5 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours. Yep. So that's huge. But
there's lots of other great activities going on in Blount County. We have Taste of Blount, which takes place in September. That's always fun. Come out for that. We have our fall festival in Townsend. That's at the end of September.
Yeah, Taste of Blount's coming up. I mean, we got football season going. You're wearing your orange.
I'm wearing my orange. Go Vols.
So we got
Ball for life.
All for life, BFL. And
feels like 98.
Yeah, oh, God, here we go. We're going to cut that conversation off. So
we're talking national championship again. Come on.
Absolutely. So, Houston, what do you guys got coming? Like I said, we're here at the beginning of September. Football season's going on. I mean, what do you got going on?
And thank you for not making me answer which event is my favorite.
Oh, no, that's next.
We have 10 events full of people that would not want to hear. Anyways, I'm going to give you a politically correct answer to that question if you give it to me. So we have Just really quickly through the end of the year, and here in September, we have a sporting clays tournament down in Chattanooga called the Scenic City Sporting Clays, which is at Benton Shooting down in Benton, Tennessee. That event will be on Friday, September. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I think September the 23rd is the date of that Friday. And then we have two really special and unique events that follow that. And the first is our Sunset Shenanigans Cosmic Drive and Putt. This event's in its third year, and it was created just to the point we were all making earlier. That group of young professionals, young givers, our goal is to cater to them. So this is an event that's at night, great food. It's at Getty's View Country Club. It's on Monday, October 23rd. And as the name alludes, it is light up neon golf on the driving range and the putting course. We have glow in the dark soccer balls for foot golf on the number 1 tee box. There will be a craft cocktail from Company Distilling for people to have at that event. And in Zool Beer will have beer there on site. It's just catered towards that younger professional that doesn't want to come do 4 hours or 5 hours for a golf tournament, but they'll come out for a couple hours, have good food, hang out with their friends, keep up with a score sheet that's utterly meaningless, and go home.
Like my golf game.
I was going to say that actually could be fun because in the dark, nobody could see how bad I was hitting the ball.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
that might be a solution for my golf game now that I think about it.
Are you like
All
Charles Barkley?
The hooks and the slices and stuff don't matter when no one can see.
Is your swing like Charles Barkley?
I don't know. You know? I used to have a fairly consistent swing. I played in high school, all through college and stuff with my dad. My dad got me started playing golf at a young age, and then I just put the clubs down and thought I could go back to it. But
It's not like riding a
my
bike.
50-ish body swings a club differently and nowhere near as consistently as it used to. So it was an exercise in frustration when I picked them back up. But anyway, I put them back down. Company's got a lot going on.
Absolutely.
So.
Most certainly do. And I think it's been great having these conversations. We could sit here and tell tons of stories. I think another event coming up is on a personal basis. We got a fishing trip. This is important to say on that because what I'm doing is outing Seth Grossman, Nelson Pratt, and Grant Rosenberg. We know you've told your wives that it's a work event. It is not. It is a fishing trip. Those boys drink heavily. I'm just joking. They don't. We just have water. And Castleberry loves sleeping on the couch. So the wives of those three, they're lying to you. I'm throwing them under the bus right now. So, but we got stuff coming up too.
We do. We're working on.
And this is why you don't have friends.
Yeah, for people who are following us, of course, we're now distributed in 5 states. We're working on adding 2 new variants into our lineup. So we'll have a Tennessee whiskey, a bourbon, and a rye with different wood finishes. Also working on an exclusive offering that we'll do on Grains and Grits weekend. Because that's something we want to do when we've got a lot of people coming to town looking for something new and exciting. So we're going to try to have something available for them. So lot going on though.
Well, I appreciate your time. I want to tell all our listeners out there too, please, if you have some time and you see an event you like, not only buy a ticket, but maybe think about buying a ticket and volunteering for an hour of it. I know Kim does a great job of that with her events where they'll come in, they'll spend an hour working and then they get to go enjoy the event, or they come in for 2 hours and go work for 2 hours. So I think volunteering at Kim's events and then also volunteering for Helen Ross McNabb Center, please reach out there. It's not just for events. They also have some great programs with children, as veterans, etc. And I think that's important to be a part of those. So we really appreciate everybody's time today. Look forward to seeing everybody back. Our next month in October is going to be our Halloween special, Jeff.
Yep. Dressing up for it.
We will be dressing up for our Halloween edition. We'll have a couple of special guests, tell some ghost stories here at the Tennessee Theater, but we will be dressing up, and that'll be a surprise to everyone how that goes. But so I look forward to joining everybody back here in October, and I appreciate everybody. I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.